Hey y'all, it's Kreeby. So hospitals are already uncomfortable enough during the day, right? Now imagine you're the only staff member on a floor at 2 a.m. Tonight I've got 3 stories people have shared with me about exactly that, and honestly after reading them I would quit on the spot. Let's get into it. The light under room 314's door was a thin yellow line, and I stood there staring at it for a full 10 seconds before I touched my radio. I'm a night shift orderly at Mercy Regional. 3rd floor, long-term care. My job is simple on paper. Check rooms every 40 minutes, log vitals on occupied patients, make sure nobody's climbed out of bed and wandered toward the stairwell. I know this floor the way I know my own apartment. I know which lights flicker near the nurse's station, which cartwheel squeaks, which rooms smell like antiseptic and which ones smell like something underneath the antiseptic. Room 314 had been locked since the pipe burst on the 12th. Maintenance had pulled a rubber seal across the door frame and taped a yellow placard over the handle. I had noted it on my log 14 nights in a row. Vacant, secured, not in use. The placard was still on the handle. The tape was still on the frame, and the light inside was on. I pressed my radio and kept my voice flat. This is Carver on 3. Can somebody check the status on 314 for me? The response came back in about 30 seconds. Donna at the front desk, half asleep by the sound of it. 314 is listed vacant. Marcus. Pipe damage, no entry until facilities clears it. Why? Lights on in there. Pause. I heard her clicking through something. Maintenance doesn't have a scheduled visit tonight. Nobody should be in there. Copy that, I said. I'll stand by. That was when I heard the footsteps. Not shuffling. Not the random creak of an old building settling into the cold. These were deliberate heel-to-toe steps moving back and forth across the room in a slow, even line. I counted the rhythm. About 8 steps in one direction. Pause of 3 or 4 seconds. Then 8 steps back, like someone pacing the length of the room and then reversing, over and over. My first thought was a rational one. Somebody from maintenance had come up the back stairs, let themselves in, and forgot to update the log. It happens. I tried the handle anyway, gently, just to confirm. The door did not move. The deadbolt was engaged from inside or outside. I couldn't tell, but the door was solid. I knocked twice, firm. Maintenance? This is orderly staff. I just need to confirm you're in there. The footsteps stopped. I waited. 7, 8, 9 seconds of complete silence. Then they started again. Same pace, same length, same pause at each end. I radioed Donna again and told her what I was hearing. She said she'd try to reach the on-call facilities manager and get back to me. That was at 2:04 in the morning. I stood in that hallway and I listened to those footsteps for the next 18 minutes. I know it was 18 minutes because I logged it. That is the kind of person I am. I write things down. I check my entries twice. I do not exaggerate in official documentation. 18 minutes of the same 8-step pattern back and forth without variation. No coughing, no phone call, no sound of tools or running water. Just the steps and the pause and the steps again. The floor in that room is linoleum over concrete, and I could feel the faint vibration of each footfall in the wall when I rested my palm against it. Whatever was in there had weight to it. Donna called back at 2:22 and told me the facilities manager said nobody had a key except the main maintenance office, which was locked for the night. She asked if I wanted her to call security. I told her to hold off for 5 minutes. I wanted to look first. The window in the door is narrow, maybe 5 inches wide. Reinforced glass with a wire mesh embedded in it. I had to angle myself to see anything useful. I put my face close to the frame and I looked. The room was lit by the overhead fluorescent, the same industrial fixture in every room on this floor. The bed frame was still in there, stripped of its mattress, pushed against the far wall. There was a dark water stain spread across the ceiling tiles from the burst pipe, and the floor near the window was buckled and discolored. A man was standing in the center of the room with his back to me. He was wearing a hospital gown, the standard issue kind, pale blue with the tie at the back. His feet were bare on the damaged linoleum. He was not moving. He had stopped when I knocked the first time, and he had apparently stopped again now that I was watching. He was just standing there, facing the stained wall, perfectly still. His arms were at his sides. His head was slightly bowed, and across the back of his gown, in large black marker, someone had written a patient ID number and a room number. The room number was 314. I pulled back from the window. I told Donna to call security and the on-call physician. I did not go back to the window while I waited. Here is what I found out the following morning, after I'd written my report and before I put in for the transfer. Room 314 had one prior occupant in the last calendar year. A man named Gerald Poole, 73 years old, admitted for post-surgical monitoring. He had been given that room number on his intake band, which was standard procedure. He passed away in that room 8 weeks before the pipe burst. Cardiac event, unremarkable paperwork, next of kin notified. The part that made me set down my coffee and stare at the table for a while was this. Gerald Poole had developed a habit during his final 2 weeks that the day shift nurses had noted repeatedly in his care log. Unable to sleep at night, he would get out of bed and pace the length of his room. Back and forth, they wrote. Same path every time. They had tried to discourage it. He kept doing it anyway, right up until the last night. Security found nothing in room 314 when they arrived. The room was empty, locked, undisturbed. No sign of entry. No footprints in the buckled flooring near the water damage. The overhead light was off when they opened the door, and the switch was in the off position. But I know what I saw through that window. I know the gown. I know the number written on the back of it. And I know that when I pressed my palm flat against that wall and felt the floor vibrating through the concrete with each step, the temperature of the wall itself was several degrees colder than anything else on that hallway, in a building where the heat runs all night. Whatever was pacing in that room had weight and cold and a number on its back. It knew which room it belonged to. It was still in it. The intercom said my name at 3:17 in the morning, and I know the exact time because I was already staring at my watch when it happened, which is the part that still gets me. I had been doing my 3 a.m. sweep of the basement level, which at St. Carver means walking a loop through records, pathology storage, and the old maintenance corridor, shining a flashlight into corners and making sure nobody had propped a door open. It is exactly as boring as it sounds. 3 months into the job, and my most dramatic incident had been a raccoon that got in through a loading bay. So when the speaker panel mounted on the wall of the records room crackled and said, Marcus, just my first name, flat and clean like someone reading off a clipboard, I told myself it was bleed-through, an old signal bouncing off the infrastructure. I had worked a radio tower job summers in college, and I knew about ghost signals, frequencies bleeding into old equipment. I wrote it in my log, checked the time, and kept walking. The second time was 4 nights later. Same room, same time, same single word. Marcus, I am not a person who scares easily. I want to be clear about that, not because it matters to the story exactly, but because it matters to me that you understand I was not some nervous kid jumping at shadows. I spent 2 years doing loss prevention at a distribution warehouse, which means I spent 2 years watching people try to lie to my face and learning to see through it. I look for explanations. I look for the mechanism. That is just how I am built. So I went looking. The building supervisor, a guy named Terrell who had been at St. Carver for 11 years, confirmed what I had already read in the facilities manual. The intercom system in the basement wing, the records room in particular, had been decommissioned in 2019 when they rewired the whole east side of the building. Not just switched off, physically disconnected. The speaker panels were still mounted on the walls because removing them would have meant patching and repainting, and nobody wanted to authorize the budget. But the wiring behind them went nowhere. Terrell pulled up the work order on his laptop and showed it to me himself. They're basically just plastic at this point, he said. Wall decorations. Could there be a backup line? I asked. Something that didn't get cut? He gave me the look people give you when they think you are wasting their time, but he checked anyway, because Terrell is thorough. He pulled the panel off the wall in the records room himself, right there in front of me, and we both looked at the back of it. 2 wires, copper ends exposed and capped with electrical tape. going nowhere. Not connected to anything. Not connected to anything in the ceiling, in the wall, anywhere. Ghost signal, I said. Sure, Terrell said, in the voice of someone humoring you. I borrowed a sound meter from facilities and brought it down on the 5th night. I wanted a reading. I wanted data. The meter registered nothing for 53 minutes, just the ambient hum of the fluorescent lights and the distant vibration of the HVAC, and then at 3:17 exactly, the speaker said my name and the meter spiked to 61 decibels. 61 decibels is a normal speaking voice. A normal human speaking voice in a quiet room. I stood there looking at the meter and then at the speaker and I thought, okay, I do not have an explanation for this yet, but I will find one. I started keeping a log just for this. Dates, times, decibel readings, whether the fluorescents were doing the flicker thing they did every few nights when the ballasts in the old fixtures buzzed louder than usual. I was building a pattern. I was going to find the frequency, the source, the specific piece of old equipment somewhere in this building that was cycling on at the same time each night and producing a sound artifact that happened to resemble a name. I even asked the day staff, casually, if anyone had heard of pranks getting pulled on overnight security. A woman named Deb who worked the day shift records intake laughed at me. Nobody goes down there voluntarily, she said. The elevator smells like formaldehyde. She was not wrong about that. On the 9th night, I brought a second flashlight and a notepad and I sat in the records room in a chair I dragged in from the hallway and I waited. The fluorescents buzzed and flickered like they always did. The smell was paper and old plastic and underneath it always that faint chemical bite you get anywhere near pathology storage. I watched the clock on my phone. 3:14, 3:15, 3:16. At 3:17 the speaker crackled. Said my name, Marcus, same as always. And then it did not stop. Kept going. Said my full name, Marcus Allen Pruitt. It said it slowly, deliberately, the way you read something out loud that you want to make sure you are reading correctly. And then, without any pause, it read my address. My home address. The apartment I had moved into 6 weeks ago. A sublet I had found through a friend of a friend. Not listed under my name anywhere. Not on any form I had filled out for the hospital. Not connected to my employment file because I had not updated my HR paperwork yet and was still technically using my mother's address in Decatur. The address that I had not written down anywhere. That I had not told anyone at work. That existed, as far as any official record was concerned, nowhere. And then the speaker clicked off. I left the chair where it was. I left my notepad on the floor. I walked to the elevator, wrote it up, turned in my key card at the overnight desk to the relief guard without saying a word, walked to the parking structure, got in my car, and drove home to the apartment it had just named, because I did not know where else to go and I was not thinking clearly enough to understand why going home was the wrong choice. I quit by text at 6 in the morning. I never got an explanation from Terrell or anyone else, and I stopped looking for one because here is the thing I keep coming back to, the thing I cannot logic my way out of. Whatever was in that speaker did not find my address in a database or a personnel file or any record that existed in that building. It found it the same way you find something you have been watching. It found it because it already knew where I went when I left. The second signature stopped me cold. Same name, same ink color, same little leftward slant on the capital D. I sat there with the log book open in front of me and I could feel my pulse in my fingertips. My name is Renata, and I've been working the overnight admissions desk at Cresthaven Regional for going on 4 years. After 10 p.m., my job is simple. I greet anyone who comes through those sliding doors. I check their ID, I hand them the pen, and I watch them sign. Every single person. It's not glamorous work. Most nights it's just anxious family members and the occasional confused elderly patient who wandered the wrong direction. I know the rhythms of this building the way you know your own apartment. I know which fluorescent light above Bay 3 flickers when the HVAC kicks on. I know the smell of the floor cleaner the overnight janitors use. Something like pine and rubbing alcohol mixed together. I know what 2 in the morning feels like in my bones. So when I turned back through the log to cross-reference an entry and saw Derek Voss signed in at 11:04 p.m., and then again at 2:38 a.m. with no departure logged in between, I felt my stomach drop like I'd missed a stair in the dark. I told myself it was a clerical error first. Maybe someone borrowed the pen and wrote the name as a joke. which sounds absurd, but strange things happen at night. I checked the departure column for the 11:04 entry. Blank. I checked for any other Derek Voss entries in the surrounding pages. Nothing. Same handwriting both times, no question. I spent probably 20 minutes just staring at it, like staring long enough would change what I was seeing. I called Marcus, one of the overnight security guards who does hall sweeps every 90 minutes. He came down around 3 and leaned over the desk with his coffee and looked where I was pointing. "So he came in twice," Marcus said. "Maybe he stepped out, didn't bother signing out, came back in. We would have seen him leave," I said. "I was here all night. You passed through twice." Marcus looked at me with that measured, patient expression he uses when he thinks I'm being anxious, which I am, usually. "Pull the lobby footage," he said. "That'll settle it." It did not settle it. The lobby cameras cover the entrance from 2 angles. I pulled up the archived feed on the desk monitor, typed in 11 p.m., and watched. At 11:04 exactly, the timestamp ticked forward and the logbook on my desk, visible in the lower corner of the frame, moved. The pen lifted. The page shifted slightly. A signature appeared, and the lobby was completely empty. No one standing at the desk. No one near the book. The sliding doors stayed shut. I watched it in real time, and then I watched it again at half speed, and the result was the same. The pen moved in an empty room. My hands went cold. Not metaphorically. The kind of cold that starts in your palms and creeps up your wrists, and I pressed them flat against my thighs just to feel something solid. "That's a camera glitch," Marcus said, but his voice had changed. It was quieter. "Then explain the signature," I said. We jumped to 2:35 a.m., watched it forward. 2:38, same thing. The book was there on the desk in the frame. My chair was empty because I had gotten up to use the restroom, which I remembered doing around that time. The pen lifted on its own, hovered for a few seconds, wrote, set itself back down. The doors never opened. Marcus left to finish his sweep and didn't say much before he went. I think we both needed to be alone with it for a minute. I should have left it there. I know that now. But I looked up Derek Voss in our patient and visitor records because we keep a searchable database of everyone who has come through admissions going back about 8 years. His name came up once. He had visited a patient named Catherine Voss in the oncology ward. The visit was logged and normal in every way. The date was September 14th, 2019. Catherine Voss died in this hospital on September 15th, 2019. I found her in the deceased patient records 2 clicks later. She was his mother. There was a next of kin field and his name was right there, Derek Voss, son. I sat with that for a long moment. Then I looked up Derek Voss separately, just his name. In the external records we sometimes receive from county emergency services when a former patient's family member is involved in an incident. We get those as notifications. He had died 11 days ago. Car accident on Route 9, about 4 miles from the hospital. The notification had come through on a Tuesday and I had filed it the same morning without thinking twice about it, the way I file dozens of things a week. Derek Voss had been dead for 11 days. And something had signed his name in this building twice in one night in his handwriting, and the security footage showed the lobby was empty both times it happened. But here is the part that made me physically stand up from my chair and back away from the desk. When I looked at the second signature again under the desk lamp, the one from 238, there was a detail I had missed. Beside his name, in the small box where visitors are supposed to write the name of the patient they are visiting, Derek Voss had written his mother's name, Catherine. He had come back to the hospital where his mother died, twice in one night, and whatever was signing that book was still looking for her. So yeah, hospitals at night are just built different and not in a good way. If you've ever worked a night shift somewhere that gave you that feeling, drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know. Like and sub if you're hanging around, no pressure. And as always friends, keep the lights on.